Welcome to today's edition of Mental Health Matters. Today I have Wendy Belvin on the show. She's going to talk about what it's like being a Black woman navigating the corporate world. Get you something to drink and get you a snack and come on back. Good morning, Wendy. How are you doing?
Good morning. I am great to be here. Thank you. Very happy. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Thank you so much for taking the time out to come back on our show and share some of your experience and your wealth of knowledge, what it's like being a Black woman navigating in the corporate world.
Thank you.
So, yes. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, perfect. So why don't we start off with you just introducing yourself and telling folks a little bit about who you are and giving them a little bit about your background.
All right, thanks, Jesse. So my name's Wendy Allen Belville, and I am a communications and PR professional. I've been in this space for about 15 years. I own Elevate and Connect. It's the CEO of Elevate and Connect, and we're a PR marketing, content marketing agency. And we support clients with their up-leveling their brands, connecting them to their audiences. My first career was in television production. So I had 18 years at Paramount Pictures. And so I had that's a whole other segment, but I had a great career as a production assistant and then a writer's assistant. And it was just an amazing journey, telling stories, those fictional stories to those audiences, because I worked with sitcoms. And now I work for corporations and I just help them up level the brands. Nice.
Wendy, how did you enjoy being a production assistant and working a lot of those shows?
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, I used to know Eddie Murphy, and I was a radio, TV, film major at the time at Cal State Northridge. And I got to know him, and he had a production deal at the time at Paramount. And he said, "Hey, do you want to work here?" And I was like, yeah. I mean, what 21-year-old wouldn't want to work there? So I started out there I actually started as a page. And while I was still in college, and that's where you're sort of an usher for the sitcoms, and you do studio tours. And so I did that for 2 years. After I graduated, I became a PA on the sitcom Wings, which I loved. And I was on Wings for the last 6 years of its run. And it's amazing. I mean, at the time, now they have golf carts, but at the time they had bicycles. And so I'd ride my bike around the lot and you run errands. You're an errand girl, basically. You run errands, you drop scripts off to the actors, and there's a lot of other stuff you do too. But it's a perfect job if you want to be in that industry, which I did. Yeah. And but they're very difficult jobs to get. I mean, everybody wants to be a PA. So it's, you're getting picked over hundreds of people. It's very difficult. And that industry, I loved it, but it can be a very volatile, difficult industry, depending on, the hands you fall into. But I had just a great group of producers who I'm still close to, many of them to this day, a lot of the actors to this day. So for me, it was a great fit. And I loved it. I mean, I grew up there. I was 21 when I started at Paramount, and was there for the next 18 years. Even my oldest child went to preschool there. So nice. I just grew, and I grew up there and loved it. If I still lived in LA, I'd still be at the studio. Nice.
Sure. And so I've been knowing your mom for many, many years. And, when you had communicated that on the last show we did, I was like, what? B, you never said this to me. You never told me about your daughter's background. That's what I was thinking and stuff. So the next time I talk to her, I'm going to bring that up. Like, this was like a well-kept secret. It was. She would always say, my daughter is phenomenal. She's a great speaker. You're going to like her, blah, 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 invite her on the show. And I'm like, okay, but you held this important piece out the story about your daughter. So
That's funny. Well, she used to come visit me a lot, and she would have, she would be an extra walk on Wings a lot, and the cast and crew got to know her really well. She's a big part of that part of my life, and I loved it. I mean, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
awesome.
Best experience.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to do another segment on that, but we're gonna talk offline because I don't, know what you want to share or don't want to share. But I would love to do a segment on that because I think, this would be beneficial to people who's trying to get into that space.
Absolutely.
I would
love to. I love to talk about that world. And there's a lot of things you do have to navigate. And it's just knowing studio culture is a very specific kind of culture that you're, and once you get into it, and like I could get a job at a studio fairly easily, I think, because studio people like studio people. And it's just a certain kind of vibe, but there's just an energy that's just explosive and wonderful and creative. Everyone's kind of made it. They're on the lot, you drive through the double arch gateway at Paramount, at least for me, it was Paramount. And you're just, you're enchanted. And sometimes I'd have to pinch myself. Like I'm working with these celebrities on this show and I'm making money and like, is this real? And it's just incredible. But I have a lot of insights that I could provide for sure. So would love to talk to you about that.
Yes, we're gonna make this happen. So how was that switch for you working at Paramount and now doing what you're doing now, or working in the corporate world? Like, how was that switch for you?
That's a great question. And I get that question a lot. My son who's now 20, my oldest son, when he was going into kindergarten, my ex-husband really wanted to move to Orange County. He said, oh, the schools are better. And I don't know if that's true, but it took him about 5 years to convince me to leave LA. I am an LA girl. I love LA. And so just I relocated to Orange County, California, and South County. So it was a pretty far commute for me to stay at Paramount. So I figured, I need to kind of switch up my game and find something else that suits me. And I already had my degree, and what do I want to do? What excites me? And I found that storytelling in the communications and public relations, realm was something that really appealed to me. And I was already a storyteller. I'd already been part of the writing staff, and working on these shows, supporting writers. And so writing was just something that I did love, and it's a creative outlet. And so I thought, let me, and I really did a lot of research. Do I want to go into marketing? Do I want to go into communications? And so my first role outside of, after I left the studio I was a marketing communications manager at a hospital in Laguna Beach. And I found that I really fit. I just had a knack for that, just storytelling, becoming a really good copywriter. And I taught myself graphic design. Nice. And just learning, public relations, how do you do a press release? What's a media pitch? What's a media advisory? So I just started on the job training, really learning my craft. And I found that, wow, I'm as suited for this as I was for television. It is storytelling. I'm a storyteller. And so in this case, now I do storytelling B2B or B2C, business to business or business to consumer, or to, or patient or whomever the audience is, the end user. I found that that's something that really I was good at, and really targeting audiences. It's all about finding the right audience and getting the right message to the right person at the right time. Yeah. And so I found that this is something I really want to dig deeper in. And so I started putting all my energies into that career. That was 15 years ago. And so I worked up the ladder and, got to the director level and department head level. Wow. Of some really big organizations. And then I found last year, I just said, you know what, I'm tired of working for people who are not, just being a woman and a Black woman. I know we're going to talk about this today. Yeah. I said, you know what, I need to build a culture and a community where everyone feels included. There's that sense of belonging. Yeah. I just got worn out and tired of working for organizations that didn't respect that you feel invisible, that didn't, we're not a safe space culturally, whether a female or a color or just any kind of diversity. And so I said, sometimes you have to create your own opportunities. And so that's when I founded Elevate Connect. Nice. That brings us here today.
Nice. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
What are some of the challenges you face as a woman working in the corporate world?
It's a good question. I think the first thing is not being taken seriously. I think that's, I think most women, we're typically not taken as seriously as men are. I tend to look young for my age, knock wood, hopefully still, I'm in my mid 50s, but when I was,
wow.
when I was, in my 30s, I looked a lot younger. And so just that alone, forget that I was a woman, I just looked younger. And so people thought, oh, well, she's, forget her. And so, but just, I think not being taken seriously is something that is, that's hard to overcome. And if you're tough or you're strong, I'm a pretty strong personality. I mean, I'm very similar to my mother. She has a very strong personality. You're seen as harsh or that, but it's just, also, I think the higher you climb on the corporate ladder, you get sort of that vibe of, well, what are you doing here? It's like you from men, and I'm not saying all men for sure. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying you the higher up you go, and I hate to say this, but I in my experience is true. It's whiter and male. And so if you're a Black woman and you're in that executive boardroom, eyes point to you, and it's like, well, oh, okay, you're an outlier. What are you doing here? They don't say that. But outright, but you can just feel that energy shift. And I felt that where it's like, man, like I'm in a room full of men who don't look like me, who don't take me seriously, and yet I'm here. And so I think that's just something personally I've had to overcome. And I do it well, and I'm in PR, so I'm enough, I can spend and I can adapt to any situation and connect to anyone. So it's not that I can't do it. It's just, that's just the ongoing sort of battle I think a lot of women face.
Yeah. In those spaces for you, do you feel like, you advocating for yourself, or you speaking up for yourself, do you feel like you were looked at, or potentially could have been looked at as the angry Black woman?
I think sometimes, yes. I was at an organization, I won't say which one, but I'm one of those people, I do make my feelings known, and to the CEO, to whomever, because I'm just going to say what I'm going to say. Now I can do it in a professional way, but I will, whether it's in a channel in a review where I'm going to state, here's what I'm thinking, or just an email, or I'll go sit and talk to someone and say, this is what I'm feeling. I've done that. And I had a pretty supportive boss when I was at it was $1 billion company. And, but things that I felt like were way out of bounds, I was very clear on, this is what I think. And I don't know if I got the angry Black woman label. I think sometimes I did, and not just there, but in other places, because people talk, and, but I always kind of had the thing in the back of my head, whether it's hearing my mom's voice or someone, but I didn't get all this way and overcome all that I've overcome to put up with this. And so it's one of those things where, I'm fair, and let's talk about it. But if I see blatant misogyny or racism, or even if it has nothing to do with being a Black or a woman, but if someone, I'm supportive of the LGBTQ community, or just abilities, but if I see any kind, just Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. Whenever I would see something that's not right, I'm the first person to put their hand up to say, this is not right, I'm calling it out. If I see something, I say something. And and I know that I've gotten the label of a rabble rouser a time or two, because I said what I said. This is what I see, and I'm going to say it. And that's the truth. So I'm sure I've gotten that label, but I really believe in speaking your truth. And I'm not a harpy about it. But the only way we get past these things is to talk about it. And so sometimes you got to address the elephant in the room. So yes, I'm sure I've gotten that label.
Yeah. And you know what? And I'm so glad that you have been blessed with that personality, because a lot of women, may have a different mindset. Some women may think like, okay, I'm here, I got this position, I'm making all this money, I don't want to ruffle the waters. I just need to be quiet. Things are not going to change. There's nothing I can do to assist with the problem or bring a change to the problem. So they sit back and they're quiet and not realize that their voice needs to be heard on
That's right.
specific matters.
That's right. You're so right, Jesse. And there have been times over the years where because I'm very outspoken, I would, coalesce with other women in the organizations that I worked with, and they would appoint me. Oh, you speak up. Can you speak to so-and-so? Can you talk to them? You're good with that stuff. And so I was always the one sort of, asked to do those things, and I didn't mind because I'm going to do it anyway, probably. But, whether speaking on behalf of myself or the team, but I will do it. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's like, man, I don't always want to be the one. It's like, and it's not, and I don't want people watching to think that I'm just crazy rabble rouser who's going around and being a disruptor. I'm not that at all. I'm very easygoing, actually. But when I see something that's not right, I will speak up. And I'm not the type who I'm not risk averse. I'm not one who's going to be quiet, like you said. Some women and men too. Well, this is how it is, so I'm just going to deal with it. No, I've never been like that, and I was not raised to be that way. That's awesome. I'm not going to be in the status quo. If the status quo is not right, I'm going to say something. And if I don't like it, I'm going to leave. So awesome. I have never been the type to keep my mouth ever. And I never will be. That's not how I raised my kids. That's not how I was raised. I will never keep my mouth shut and just figure it out and go with the flow. Because what is that? That's not speaking the truth. So I don't do that.
Yeah. Wendy, being a woman or a person, or specifically I'm talking about being a female, you have to have some type of confidence to be able to operate in that space, because, some people, may not feel as confident, or, they may feel like, well, I don't want to say anything because, I don't know if, like I said, if this is going to get taken care of. But to me, I feel like you are very confident in who you are and what you bring to the table. And therefore, you want your voice to be heard, that this situation needs to be looked at, or there's some concerns to this situation, or the situation needs to be rectified.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I do feel, there's some days I feel more confident than others, but in general, I do feel that confidence. And I think a lot of what helped me, actually, Jesse, is coming from almost 20 years, at Paramount, in the industry that I loved. And I just built up, a lot of my personality there, where, I was like, I accomplished that. And I used to be I skydived a few times. It's like, nice. You know what? I can handle this. So nice. Whatever this little interpersonal thing is, or this, leader is being disruptive to hurting all these people, or whatever it is. Whatever it is. I don't mind being the one to hold my hand up and say, hey, that's not right. And I was even like that as a child too. So like a newfound thing. I'm just mouthy and sassy. And, my mom literally raised my brother and I, you've met my brother too, to question authority. I mean, she would say that all the time, question authority. Yes. And so I do. And my kids do it to me sometimes. So it goes full circle. Like, hey, wait a minute. You're not listening to everything I'm saying. So I get it, especially with my oldest son. Like he really tells me about myself sometimes. Mom, I don't really like that approach. I'm like, oh, okay. So, but I'm like, I respect the fact that you have a voice and you can use it, especially as a young Black man. Good. I taught you well. So yes, but I think it's important for everyone listening today, if you have your voice and use it. And sometimes we find ourselves in situations, I realize, where we can't use our voice, where we're in a situation, we just have to deal with the job, or you have to deal with whatever for now. But it's really important to just, when you can, speak that truth and just be as authentic as you can.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What are some of the stereotypes of successful women in the workplace?
That we don't care about our families, that I think one thing is, if you're a woman and you're on the track for a directorship or a VP, and she's pregnant, she's not going to be career-minded anymore. Starting a family is going to be something that's going to be a deterrent to her ambition. I think another one is that we're too emotional. That, women in general, and this is not just in the workplace, but in politics or wherever, a lot of people think that women are just too emotional. We're too aggressive. Sometimes if a man, is stern in a business, like say a team meeting, or not even stern, but just exacting. If a woman does it, it's seen as harpy. Mm-hmm. So I think that's another thing, that we're cold, and I think people just assume there's a lack of leadership. They just assume, oh, if the woman is leading the team or leading the department, it's not going to be as strong as if a man's leading it. So I think those are just some misnomers that, we got to just call those out too.
Yeah. I know someone from a previous workplace, and she is an African-American woman. At the time, she was 30 years old, and she was, because I don't want to say her position, but she was second in command. Super, super intelligent, super smart, super intelligent, strong, confident, but just as sweet as pie, just a very, very compassionate and flexible and understanding personality. And when I finally got a chance to talk to her, Wendy, I'm telling you, I can sense and discern some of the hardships that she had faced getting to the level that she were currently in at that moment. Me and her, we had to do a lot of collaborating with different departments and different people in that place. And in these meetings, it would be me, her, and maybe like HR or another higher position. And I can sense I felt like it was an unspoken battle going on between the two, but not necessarily her. It was the Black woman. She was pretty much holding her own, and I sensed that the different people they didn't like that. I felt like it was like, well, what are you doing here, or why did you get this position? About a year later at this company, she was promoted again, and when she got promoted again, a lot of that hostility, unspoken hostility, you could tell she addressed that when she got in this other position. And I used to feel so bad for her. She would never come out and tell me directly, but she knew I knew, and she would drop me little nuggets here and there. So I would find myself, praying for her when I go on my break after hours, and because I know she was the only one, in that space that looked like her, and being a woman, very challenging.
That's very challenging. And I'm sure, wow, I would love to have coffee with her, because it's, like you said, the higher you go and you just feel that hostility, and that I'm sure she very much got the, what are you doing here?
Yes.
Or how did you get this? Or is it just because of affirmative action?
Yeah.
People just assume you they just want to check off the diversity box. So that's why you got hired. I mean, they completely discount your skills and qualifications. So you get it. So that's very common with women, and especially women of color.
Yeah. And another thing I think what was going on with her too was they piled so much work on her to the point I think they were trying to set her up to fail. But what she did was, the level of responsibility was like of 4 people. It was crazy, And so what she did was she was really close with her supervisor, which was a white woman. And, and I don't know for sure because I wasn't in these conversations, but she was able to get her supervisor to create more positions to take some of these things off her plate, which was really beneficial for the organization,
yes.
And that was part of the reason why she got this next bump up, because she was able to, talk to her boss and let her know that these particular position is needed in these particular places. It was just awesome, but she's thriving now.
That's great.
She's doing very, very well. But me being a Black man, I know the battle scars, unspoken battle scars when they're there. They may not be physically visible, but you can tell,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's powerful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, my hat go off to her. So, okay, let's get to the next question. How do you feel the political landscape has shaped how women are viewed in the workplace?
I think, the last few elections, whether it's, the congressional level or, the federal, congressionally, or, look at Hillary Clinton in 2016, I think we're making progress. I think more women are serving in political offices, or holding political offices right now, than more time than any other in the history, which is great. But I think we need to do more at the grassroots level, especially women. I think we need to teach our girls. I have 2 boys, but I think we
Yeah.
need to teach our girls to get politically, politics is it's a dirty sport. I mean, it's, I get into it a lot and sometimes I have to take a break from it, but just, but getting girls interested in at a grassroots level and making change, using your voice, whether it's city council or just even at school level,
Yeah.
just what can you do to make change? And I think that as we see more women holding political office, if representation matters, we hear that all the time. And
Yes.
when you see a woman holding office, that gives a lot of other women and girls coming up the purview that this is possible. We can make changes to policies that really impact women. Don't get me started on Roe v. Wade. I don't want to make this a political discussion, but it's women need to speak up we need to speak up to have our voices heard. And we need to be in positions of power where if decisions are being made about women or women's issues, we need to have a seat at the table so we can be part of those conversations. And you can only do that if you get elected. And so I think, it has improved now in 2022, more so than ever, but we need more. I think we're nowhere near where we need to be in terms of women in the political landscape. But I think just in terms of how has it changed, that's a tough one, Jesse, because I feel like in some ways we take 1 step forward and 3 steps back.
Yes.
But I think that we have more of a voice than we used to have in terms of women, just all women. But I think we need to do more. And I think I would love to see it younger, more political activism from young people, from teenagers and young adults coming out of college. And it's a male dominated world, the political landscape. But I just think that's one thing that we need to do to shift it. I think it's better, but I think there's more work to be done.
Absolutely. I love Maxine Waters.
Yeah.
Love, she don't play.
Auntie Maxine, right?
Yes, love her because she is one, she's not scared to use her voice. She's really not, and and I think we do need more younger women, but we also need more women in general, young women, older, mid-age, that can utilize their voice and know the potential that their voice can bring. It could bring some type of change. Because sometimes, like with voting, for example, at one point, folks were like, oh, my vote don't matter. Yes, your vote do matter. Get out and vote, and I think sometimes that's the mindset that some people have. I want to talk about an interesting conversation, right? I wonder if we got time. Okay, we're gonna try to talk about this right quick, but so I had a few conversations with different people about the election when Obama ran, and then when Hillary Clinton ran, and some of the feedback I got was very interesting because this was from my white counterparts, and they were like they would rather have a Black man sitting in the White House opposed to Hillary Clinton. And I thought that was very, very interesting, and I was so drawn into these conversations, and some of them kind of gave me their excuses, some of the things that you said, which I don't necessarily agree with, of course, but I just thought just the mindset, it was kind of like that mindset of no, women can't do certain things, or, women can't take on certain roles because of whatever their reasons was. But I thought it was interesting that it was a consensus all the way around of the people I was talking to. What do you think about that?
I had those conversations too, Jesse, where I was actually frankly shocked that a Black person got in before a white woman,
Right.
Wow. Where, I would have lost that bet. I would have thought it would have been flipped.
Me too.
And so that just shows the misogyny, frankly, in this country, that people still feel safer having a man at the head of the table. That, in the White House than a woman. Like, I think a lot of it is, and I can't speak for the country, obviously, but men are perceived to as being stronger. So what happens in a time of war? What happens? They can't see a female. I'm not saying everybody, but I think some of it is some people can't see a female as a commander in chief. I think that's what it is. It's not just the political, decisions that a woman would make or not make. It's, could she also be the commander in chief? Of course she could.
Yes.
Of course. But I bet you dollars to donuts, that's the big question mark. A lot of people don't see women as being a commander in chief. And I think even a lot of women don't see that. It's not just men. This is not just, oh, men are so bad and they think women can't rise to the occasion. I think a lot of women also, not me, but I think a lot of women feel more comfortable having a man as a commander in chief. Oh, I feel safe because he's there, as opposed to a female. And that's part of that just thinking that women, even we get caught up in it too. That's why we need to teach our girls growing up. That's why it's so important when I say teach the younger people, so they don't grow up with those shackles in their minds where they feel like, oh, well, we can only go so far. We can only be congressional aides, or we can only go as far as, VP. That's as high as we climb, which is great. We have our first female VP,
right?
Kamala Harris. But but why not president? And I just think that's a glass ceiling. I don't even know in the next few elections if we're going to reach that milestone, because I just think the country is more comfortable with a man. And and politics is so messed up right now anyway, but I think that's a big, we talk about the glass ceiling, that's a big one to chisel. I don't know that we're going to get there. I mean, I'm hopeful, and I would love to see a woman, in my lifetime, ascend to the role, to being president, being elected as president. But there's so much of that bias and misogyny that still exists. That is not going away anytime soon unless we speak out on it. And that's why women getting more politically active and using our voices, positions of power, it's really important. I mean, you see it in the corporate world. I mean, if you look at Fortune 500 companies, only 9% of CEOs are female. It's even in the workforce, we're seeing that same disparity. And so how is that going to penetrate into the political realm? It just takes a lot of work from women and men. Men have to be your advocates. I mean, we need our husbands. My husband's a big old advocate for me. I think a lot of husbands and men can be really, really strong supporters of helping to elevate the voices of women.
Yes, I definitely agree with you on that. This is it for this edition of Mental Health Matters. If you enjoyed part one of this show, if you would like to be a guest on this show, or if you would like a DVD copy of this show, please dial 916-366-4600. Thank you.